Welcome to Walking on the Weene Side, a part of It Matters Radio. And today I have a fun show in store for us as I'm talking to Roger Boucher, who is from way up north in Saskatchewan, Canada, where he does magic and hypnosis, stage hypnosis and hypnotherapy. And of course, both those things are of great interest to me. I never was very great at magic. I don't have hands that work that well. But on the other hand, I'm a great fan of magic. In fact, our son, when he was young, used to do all kinds of great magic tricks, always had me amused. The one I had the most trouble figuring out was how he disappeared at night. But that was but that's a different topic. So tell us a little bit about what kind of stuff you do, Roger.
Well, thank you so much, Ken. I, like you said, perform magic and hypnosis, and a lot of what I do is very interactive. And I like bringing people on stage so that people can really get a sense of who I am performing, as well as see their friends and peers on stage and having fun.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So with hypnosis, I invite people on stage, and my goal with hypnosis on all my shows is for the people who chose not to come up, the next time they see a hypnosis show and trust the hypnotist, they're going to wish they had been up at my show, and they're going to get on stage the next time.
For somebody else.
Yeah, or me, depending on where they see the show.
So what method do you use to hypnotize people?
Well, with hypnosis, I believe that everything is hypnosis. Anytime we have a state change, anytime we change emotions. So realistically, what I'm using is people's focus and teaching them how to be observant of their own state changes so that they can really get into their own natural state of hypnosis. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of hard to explain exactly what I do, but a lot of it is directing focus and then getting them into their own natural state so that we can use it for entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and once they are hypnotized, what kind of things might you ask them to do, or how would you ask them to interact differently with the world?
So I really enjoy playing with perceptions. So I use a voodoo doll in my show, and the voodoo doll is really a vessel to allow the person to learn to change their beliefs. Uh-huh. Because it's beliefs that essentially in the show, it's beliefs that the voodoo doll has power. So once they are able to change the belief that the voodoo doll has power, they can then change the negative beliefs that they hold about themselves in the future. So they learn something within the show. I like, making myself invisible. That's always fun. Sending people to a haunted house, playing with their emotions a little bit. Mm-hmm. I enjoy having people just interact with the world a little bit differently. So they'll have X-ray vision, and I help people prove that they have X-ray vision with little tests that they do on stage. It's kind of stuff like that. So,
okay. Yeah. So when you're getting somebody to believe that this voodoo doll has powers, do you ever feel that maybe the voodoo doll does in fact have powers, that it might take revenge on you?
No, because I made the voodoo doll with a T-shirt that I bought from a Value Village. So I just cut it up. I just made a pattern. I made it up all on my own, and stuffed it with a T-shirt. So it's really just something that I've created, and I don't actually ever use a personal item of theirs in the voodoo doll. Like I mime taking something from them. So I'll mime taking their ring, which I never take. I'll mime taking a piece of hair, make them feel a little tugged, but I never actually take a piece of hair. So hypothetically, if the voodoo doll does have power, if it's not using anything of theirs, so, so I'm playing it safe still.
Okay, so we're not talking about the story of the ventriloquist who one day learns that his dummy has now taken over his life.
Yes, no, nothing like that. I play it safe. It doesn't have powers, so just make sure that everything is. It's all in the mind. I want everyone to experience it because I really enjoy having the audience kind of involved in the show. Even though it's a hypnosis show, they get to kind of think about it differently. Like, oh wow, what if we could change our beliefs? You know, as well be entertained at the same time because they're watching this person move, and all of a sudden they can't move, or they get pinched or poked or tickled or whatever, you know.
So, okay. Now, how do people react to this after the show? Do you get feedback from people about what they've experienced and how it's changed them?
I had one woman who, well, not just one, but this one specifically, came up to me afterwards and said that was the most powerful experience of her life, and she felt that it's really helped her change. And this was just right after the show, so I really feel that with that woman specifically who came to talk to me about it, that she will have been able to change her life in the way she wants to. And a lot of people tell me about my show is that, you know, it appeals to everyone because I'm not there to make anyone look foolish. Any routine that I do is outwardly funny or interesting to people, but it's not to break anyone down. I really want to build people up in the show.
So
I feel that building
in a
people
respectful
up,
orientation.
very much. Like, there's no blue material. It's all like there's nothing that would make someone embarrassed. You know, like I bring people up. I bring someone who's hypnotized their spouse up, which is really fun, and then have them believe that it's their favorite artist, like their favorite star, and they get to have a moment with this star. You know, so. And maybe they get a kiss from the star, and then they have to call their significant other, which is really funny because they're there on the phone with the person, you know. So the situational comedy is what I really enjoy.
It sounds like great fun. Now, you also do hypnotherapy, which of course is a very different thing. You're not there to entertain, but actually to produce change.
Yes. And hypnotherapy is I find amazing and interesting. Like, I had started out getting interested in hypnosis via stage hypnosis, but I never really took it anywhere because I wasn't trained. I just kind of learned about it. I read books, I watched videos. And then I took a hypnotherapy course before I brought hypnosis to the stage. So it was really the hypnotherapy that kind of brought me into the whole performing hypnosis because I learned what hypnosis is, I learned how to deal with it, how to work with it. So then, now for helping people change, I think it's just an amazing tool that can help people achieve their goals.
So, what are some of the kinds of things that you try to help people with using hypnosis?
The main thing that I deal with is anxiety. And that one I find is the bulk of what I do. Like, a lot of people come in mostly for anxiety, and then the odd ones come in for stop smoking, weight management, and those kind of things. But mostly it's anxiety and just achieving goals.
So it's helping people to focus on calming themselves, on thinking about something that will help reduce the anxiety.
A lot of it is reframing, actually. So I don't necessarily have them like focus on things that would calm them to reduce the anxiety per se. It would be more have them reframe their past experiences so that the current experiences are no longer bothersome. So hypothetically, we'll use spiders as an example. If you thought spiders were cute, and notice the different things that are amazing about them and fascinating, So rather than being scared of it, now you have the experience of being fascinated with it. And so when you see it, it's a non-event, as an example.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm glad that you picked spiders because, of course, that brings us to Harry Potter.
Yeah.
That really the whole idea of one of the spells that they use in the Harry Potter series is one in which what would do, Todd, is if you think about what's funny about something instead of what's scary about it, that you can change your anxiety level.
That's right, yeah.
Make it non-threatening.
So a lot of it is really just giving people a different experience of the event, and I use future memories a lot of times with people. So everyone's heard of Pavlov's dogs. When you ring a bell and all of a sudden the dogs are salivating because they believe food is going to come, because that's what they've been conditioned to do. And what you can do is anytime you imagine something, your brain doesn't know the difference between real or imagined events. And because of that, you can create situations where the person is calm and they're dealing with these different things in a calm way. And it's all happening up here. It's not actually happening in the real world, but because it's happening up here, the brain is learning and experiencing things differently. So I do a lot of that, as well as past memories where they kind of go back and they look at different things of their choosing to experience things a little bit differently and reframe it.
Yeah. And we're going to be right back to do some other reframing.
You're so famous, you're so hot, you're so gorgeous, forgive me not. I think I'm gonna burn my boats tonight. I'm gonna take my chances. I wanna turn my fears into the light. Let go of my defenses. It was an ordinary day, not like the way it is today. I would regularly say, celebrate. I can't be your hero, it isn't in me. I can't win your fight. Baby, don't you see the fading signs of the burned out lights above the crowd? All I want is to give you something better. Little lady, don't you see it's all a game? Living life just to beat circumstance. I wanna show you we got something better, baby.
Awesome.
Welcome back to Walking on the Weene Side, and my guest today, Roger Boucher. We've been talking about hypnosis and reframing things. Roger, I don't know if you are aware of this, but I actually, I was a psychologist, used hypnosis, and I had issues with the use of hypnosis in the kind of work I did, but I was trained in the Ericksonian hypnotic methods, and I also found that it was very useful to teach people to do self-hypnosis. And I was wondering if you work at all with teaching people how to put themselves in a altered state so that they can then deal with things differently.
For sure. I really enjoy, after a few sessions, I like to teach people how to do self-hypnosis because, well, one or two at the most, but then that way they can go back and really work on things. I find that once they know what hypnosis is, then it's easier for them to use self-hypnosis to benefit because now they have an understanding of what hypnosis is. They're like, okay, this is how it's going to feel. So when they start focusing on something like their hand becoming loose, limp, and relaxed, and they notice the changes, then they're like, okay, this is where I'm going. All right. So then they can really get into it effectively. And I find that with self-hypnosis, there's lots and lots of stuff that you can do with it for yourself. So it's a very positive thing because it can really decrease stress. It's just like meditation, essentially, because it decreases stress, and because it's so focused, it can really allow them to be more focused on their goals and achieve what they want. So it's pretty amazing.
Well, I've found in many ways to use self-hypnosis in my own life that are kind of cool. For example, I can get on an airplane, and did. For example, we were going from here from California to New Zealand, and that's a pretty long hop. And I ate supper on the plane. Of course, they serve supper right after we got started. I put myself into a trance and told myself to wake up in time for breakfast, and I did. And, it was wonderful. Now, it wasn't so wonderful for my wife, who was sitting next to me going, can't wake up, I'm bored. But she couldn't wake me up. I also used a similar technique. I don't know if you've ever been to India, but
not yet.
Yeah, I have been, and I traveled on a train, second-class sleeper. When Indian people hear that I did this, they don't believe it. But I was with a gentleman who was from India, a very dear friend of mine, so he attested to the story. And what I did there was the same thing, because it was like almost a day's travel. And let me put it this way, to use what would kind of nicely be called, at best, the outhouse on an Indian second-class sleeper train. I mean, basically, you're squatting over a hole in the floor of a speeding train that's bouncing around. This is not something I particularly wanted to do. So I just turned off all of my physical processes. And,
wow.
Yeah. So it's really amazing the degree, if you keep practicing these skills, they're kind of like meditation skills. They're very much connected to the skills you learn in yoga, for example, or Tai Chi, something like that. TM. Things like that. But I also did research on it. I bet some of our listeners don't believe that hypnosis is an altered state, but I will tell you, I did do years ago some research with a friend of mine where we gave people memory tasks, and half the group were hypnotized and half the group were just given a kind of a basic relaxing instruction. Relax, kind of thing. And the hypnotic group did quite significantly better on the task.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah. So it's real, and it has effect. And folks, you actually, if you want, there are even tapes available if you go like on Amazon. You can, if you don't have somebody like Roger Boucher around to help you, why you can just learn how to self-hypnotize. Although I think a good hypnotherapist working with you is probably a much better and surer route.
Oh, for sure. There's actually some really great self-hypnosis stuff by Igor Delahosky or Ledachowski. I think it's Ledachowski. Anyway, weird last name. He has some amazing stuff. That's one thing, like, if people are looking for it, they'll be able to find his stuff. But you were talking about memory, and memory, there's actually a really old study about memory where they had people being in an altered state with a little bit of alcohol and people who were studying sober, and then they would have the test sober. And the people who studied sober did better on the sober test, on the written test.
Right.
Then they reloaded the test where they had groups studying with a couple shots, and then a group studying sober. And then when they went to the test, they had everyone take a couple shots. So the group who was studying a little bit inebriated did better than the sober people on the test where they had a few shots.
Right.
And that actually, when I did a show recently for a SciAS, Institute of Technology here in Prince Albert, I talked about that and how if you study in the same state that you're going to test in, so let's say if you get nervous for a test, well, get nervous while you're studying.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you have to test in a quiet place, then you have to study in a quiet place.
Right.
You know, it's like music in your ears, people all around.
Right.
You got to find a place that you can be in the same kind of state and environment that you're going to test in.
Yeah, there is something, though, that you missed on that. There are also studies that show that if you give people alcohol and you give another group something that tastes the same as the alcoholic beverage, and you tell them that it's alcohol, that second group will behave as if they drank alcohol. And a control group, a third group, in which you give them the same stuff without alcohol, but you tell them it's not alcohol, that it is the expectation of alcohol that changes the state. But nobody has ever done that I know of with the actual performance on a learning test. That would be an interesting study. If you wanted to do one, you might want to. But because how we think about our state is very important, and that's why, of course, one of the great tricks that Erickson worked on was getting people who said, I'm not going to be hypnotized, to then be hypnotized. And basically he did it by saying, well, if you want to, you could do this. Couldn't you? And since they were perceiving themselves as being in control, they then, which is what they want. So how we think about ourselves and how we think about situations really affects how we function.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
The placebo effect would be a very interesting way to tie in like the whole study. So it's like, okay, well, if people are perceived as doing this, would they still perform better or worse? Yeah, it'd be a very interesting study to do.
Yeah. Now, we've been talking about hypnosis, but you have a second skill.
Yep.
That, as I mentioned earlier, magic. And as I mentioned, David, for years, played around with magic. He got quite good. I must say it got a little expensive for me because he, once a week we'd go down to the magic store to buy a new trick. He never got to the point where he built his own. Do you build your own apparatus, and do you use apparatus?
I do have a couple illusions that I perform with my wife. So depending on what type of show people want, if they want the solo show, if they want the duo show, then we'll bring a different show. So I'm in the process right now of finishing a second illusion. So we have one that dates back to Harry Houdini, and we built that. Mm-hmm. And then I'm building a new one of my own design, so I'm pretty excited for that. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, I don't use big apparatus in my show. It's stuff that everyone can see, but it's not big illusions. It's more, as I said in the past, interpersonal magic that people get up and they get involved in the show. People get to laugh with their friends. So, yeah.
Well, a few months back, we actually met up with our son and our youngest grandson in Vegas. And we went to see Criss Angel.
And how was that?
To be honest, disappointing. It was too impersonal, too, up on the stage, too overblown, too much. I felt like I did when I was at Disney World years ago. And they had so many, you're standing in line, and there were all these announcements. And on this ride, you will experience this, and you will see this, and you will. That by the time I got there, all I wanted was to get off the ride. And bombarded.
Yeah.
But I love a good magic show. So tell me a little bit about that, but first we're going to take a short break. You're going to tell everyone
What city you've landed in? Toronto. Mark, what city are you in?
Welcome back to Walking on the Weene Side, and we're now going to be talking about magic with our guest today, Roger Boucher. Roger, what are some of your favorite magic tricks to do?
Oh, I really enjoy playing with the perception of time. It's actually one of my mom's favorites as well. There's that. There's rope magic. I enjoy performing as well. Mentalism, where you're reading minds, or the perception that you're reading minds. Anyway, So I don't actually have those kind of powers, unfortunately.
Oh, you're never supposed to admit that, are you? I thought you were supposed to go through life having everybody being terrified that you were reading their thoughts.
You know what? The funniest part about that is no matter what you tell people, they will come up with their own conclusion. So if I tell people that I don't have powers, and they'll believe whatever they want to believe. So it's not on me to dissuade them. It's more just I have no problem informing them, and then they can choose themselves what they want to believe.
Now, when you were gesturing before, I think I saw that you had something in your hand.
Yeah, I have some cards in my hand.
Oh.
So why don't we do something here now? I realize that because we're on Skype, there's a little, me in the corner there. So what we're gonna do is I will actually turn away and make sure that I can't see anything. And I'm just gonna rifle through the cards like this. Ken, and you're gonna call out stop. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So I can. Okay, good. I can see that there, and just call it stop.
I can't. Okay, stop.
Okay. Remember the card.
Okay, got it.
You see it?
I see it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Now, it talks about mentalism, and you can see. I'll just leave the cards up here. That way, I'm not looking through them or anything like that.
Right.
So, and this wasn't your card, correct?
No, that's not.
7 of hearts. No. All right. Now, Ken, I want you to think of your card. Now, from now on, you're not going to get to say anything. I just want you to think of the words. All right. So think of your card, and what I want you to do is I want you to think if it was black or if it was red. Okay. Good. All right. Now, I want you to think. You have a very good poker face, Ken.
I wish it worked in poker.
It's always different when you're playing, right? You have so many other things to think about. So now I want you to think of the suit. Okay. And either think clubs or spades. Good. Now think of your card. So if the number or picture. Okay, it was a number card then. Now, when you think about the number, could have been odd or even. Excellent. All right, now I want you to picture, now it'll be a little bit different because it's probably opposite on your screen than it is on mine.
Right.
But I want you to think 2, 4, 6, 8, or, yeah, we'll just leave 10 off screen. It's 2, 4, 6, or 8. I don't think it's 10. Okay? Alright, so we'll get rid of the 8. And let's see. So we have 2, 4, 6. not the 6. So 2 and 4. So a little smirk, so I'm going to go with the 4 of spades.
Right. Very good. Boy, you worked hard at that. And I always try to keep from giving you any tells, but it's very hard.
Yeah. It's always interesting. You have to always work with the person, right? So it's like, okay, now what is he doing? Okay, how am I going to figure this one out, right? So it's always going. Each person is individual. Sometimes it's really easy to like still nod and basically tell you what you're looking for. So yeah.
Very good.
So that's some of the stuff that I do. It's a lot of interaction.
So you basically you're doing small groups, smaller stage.
I do up to I do a lot of 100 to 300 person groups. So that's kind of basically what I do. I mean, here is something very small for this type of audience. So the stuff that I perform on stage is really suited towards a larger group that everyone can see. So, and if it is small, it's like this would be more about watching the person and making sure, like, if you know what the card is, making sure that you can tell what they're doing, and if they're gonna give it away, and so I make it more about the audience if it's smaller, or so it's less about the props, because I don't think props are magical in themselves. It's more just what the experience is.
So now, and you also do some improv, or is that only your wife who does the improv?
I do practices with them, but I don't perform with the improv group. It's more just that's their thing. Like right now, they're working on a Disney song mashup, which is going to be really exciting for them. It's going to be a lot of fun, and that'll be in their next show. So we have actually they have some videos online of some of their songs, and some of their stuff. So, yeah.
Maybe you could send me a link to one of the songs, and we can use it during the show. Get it up someplace. And yeah. And now, folks, we've been talking with Roger Boucher of BoucherEntertainment.com. And when you get to the website, you're going to get a very interesting choice. You're going to get a choice of English or French. And I like that. I actually don't speak much French, but I did take some French in school, and I did visit France a few times over the course of my life. Very, very lovely country, great country. And so I went to the French version, and I have to tell you I didn't understand it, so I went back to the English. But that's because you're up in Canada, and you haven't really started coming down here into the States yet.
Not yet, no.
How far have you traveled in Canada doing shows?
I've been from BC, northern BC, southern BC to Ottawa. Haven't quite made it to the far reaches of the provinces yet, or up north in the Yukon and Northwest Territories, but there's time, right? It's always a building.
Well, it's funny because a couple of weeks back I did a show with one of the music shows, but I did it with Monica and Kerry. And we had a musician from Labrador, Newfoundland. And I myself spent a summer working in Canada many years ago. And so I've been to the eastern part and actually driven through a lot of them, but I've never been to Saskatchewan, I don't think. So tell me, what should somebody come to Saskatchewan for, besides to see you perform? I mean, obviously, that's the first reason.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a lot of beautiful things in Saskatchewan. Like down south, there's the Great Plain, like the Great Sandhills. So the Great Sandhills are basically rolling dunes that move, and it's the only place in the world that this exists, other than a desert. But it's different in a desert because there's plants here. There's life. Up north, there's lakes. Like from Prince Albert, I can drive, let's say about an hour. If I drive an hour, I can probably make it to 15 lakes. And in any direction, I can drive north, south, east, or west, and I can hit a lake in an hour. So it's beautiful. Like there's trees, there's wonderful lakes, if you like fishing, there's amazing fishing. There's a lot to see. There's like down south we have a T-Rex museum in East End, Saskatchewan. That's about 5 hours from here, but like there's so much to see, and it's such a vast province that I haven't even been everywhere yet. So.
Well, keep traveling around, and hopefully now. And when you go out, do you do any of the small towns? Do you do shows in like the smaller towns in Saskatchewan?
Oh yeah, I do a lot of smaller venues like and corporate and municipal events. So like as an example, just recently I was in a place called Porcupine Plain. I think there's about 400 people there, and I was performing for their co-op fundraiser. So I did a half-hour magic show to begin with, and then an hour hypnosis show afterwards, and got everyone involved in the show, and it was a wonderful show. It was a lot of fun.
A town like that, in an hour and a half, you could just about have done something with each person in town individually.
Almost, yeah. So I do a lot of smaller towns, especially in Saskatchewan. Like because I've been performing for 15 years here in Saskatchewan. My name is out there a little bit more, so I do a lot of stuff in Saskatchewan and just the smaller communities, and I'm working on getting further and further, and so it's always I love performing at small communities because they're a lot of fun. People are really receptive and they really enjoy the show.
So folks, today I've been talking with Roger Boucher. I'm going to spell your last name, so folks, when you go looking for Boucher Entertainment, you can find it. It's Boucher. Did I spell it correctly?
That is correct, yeah.
Wow, I'm a mentalist.
You read my mind.
And folks, he's a nice guy. He's a talented guy. And if you get a chance to either hire his talents or just get to go to see him at a show, I think you're going to enjoy getting to know more about Roger Boucher. Roger, thanks so much for walking on the Weene side with me.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Ken. I really appreciate it and really enjoyed talking to you.
You just want me 'cause I'm famous.